Canto 1, Narada's instruction on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai Shri Krishna. Sutta Uvacha Atatam Sukham Ashina Upashinam Prahachravaha Devarshihi Praha Viprarshim Veena Panihi Smayanneva.
Translation: Sutta Goswami said, thus the sage amongst the gods, Narada, comfortably seated and apparently smiling, addressed the rishi amongst the Brahmanas, Vedavyasa.
Narada Uvacha Parasharya Mahabhaga Bhavatah Kachid Atmana Paritushyati Sharira Atma Manasa Eva Va.
Addressing Vyasadeva, the son of Parasara, Narada inquired, are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization?
Jignasitam sasampannam apite mahadadbhutam kritvan bharatam yastvam sarvartha paribramhitam.
Your inquiries were full, and your studies were also well fulfilled, and there is no doubt that you have prepared a great and wonderful work, the Mahabharata, which is full of all kinds of Vedic sequences elaborately explained.
Jignasitam adhitam cha brahma yattat sanatanam tathapi shochasyatmanam akratartha iva prabho.
You have fully delineated the subject of impersonal Brahman as well as the knowledge derived therefrom. Why should you be despondent in spite of all this, thinking that you are undone, my dear Prabhu?
Vyasa uvacha astyeva me sarvam idam tvayoktam tathapi natma paritushyate me tanmoolam avyaktam agadha bodham prachamahe tvatma bhavatma bhutam.
Sri Vyasadeva said, all you have said about me is perfectly correct. Despite all this, I am not pacified. I therefore question you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction, for you are a man of unlimited knowledge due to your being the offspring of one, Brahma, who is self-born without mundane father and mother.
Savai bhavan veda samasta guhyam upasito yat purushah puranaha paravarisho manasaiva vishwam srijatyavat ati guner asangaha.
My Lord, everything that is mysterious is known to you because you worship the creator and destroyer of the material world and the maintainer of the spiritual world, the original personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to the three modes of material nature.
Tvam paryatanarka iva trilokim antascharo vayur ivatma sakshi paravare brahmani dharmato vrateha snatasya me nyunamalam viktaksva.
Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in the three worlds. And like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all pervasive supersoul. Please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence under disciplinary regulations and vows.
Sri Narada Uvacha Bhavatanirdita prayam Yasho Bhagavatonmalam Yanevasau Natusyeta Manye Taddarshanam Khilam.
Sri Narada said, "You have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless.
Yatha dharmadayaschartha Munivaryanu न तथा वासुदेवस्य महिमा या अनुवर्णितः.
Although, great sage, you have very broadly described the four principles beginning with religious performances, you have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality Vasudeva.
न यद्वचश्चित्रपदं हरेर्यशो जगत् पवित्रं प्रज्ञिता कर्हिचित् तद्वायसं तीर्थम् उशन्ति मानसा न यत्र हंसा निरमन्त्य उशिक्षयः.
These words, which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows, since the all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode. They do not derive any pleasure there.
तद्वाग्विसर्गो जनताघ विप्लवो यस्मिन् प्रतिश्लोकम् अबद्धवत्यपि नामान्यनन्तस्य यशो निक्तानि यत् शृण्वन्ति गायन्ति गृह्णन्ति साधवः.
On the other hand, that literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest.
नैष्कर्म्यम् अपि अच्युता भाववर्जितम् न शोभते ज्ञानं नलं निरञ्जनम् कुतः पुनः शश्वत् अभद्रम् ईश्वरे न चार्पितं कर्म यद् अपि अकारणम्.
Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord?
अथो महाभाग भवान् अमोघदृक् शुचि श्रवाः सत्यरतो धृतव्रतः उरुक्रमस्याखिल बन्धमुक्तये समाधीन नुस्मरा तद्विचेस्थितम्.
O Vyasadeva, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness. And thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage.
ततोऽन्यथा किञ्चन यद् विवक्षतः पृथग् दृशस्तत्कृतारूप नमाभिः न कर्ह्यचित् क्वापि च दुःस्थितामतिर्लभेत वाताहतानौ इवास्पदम्.
Whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with different forms, names, and results to agitate the mind as the wind agitates a boat which has no resting place.
जुगुप्सितं धर्मकृतेन शासतः स्वभावरक्तस्य महान् व्यतिक्रमः यद्वाक्यतो धर्म इति तरस्थितो न मन्यते तस्य निवारणं जनः.
The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions.
विचक्षणोऽस्यार्हति वेदितुं विभो अनन्तपारस्य निवृत्तितः सुखं प्रवर्तमानस्य गुणैरनात्मनस्ततो भवान् दर्शय चेस्थितं विभोः.
The Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality, retired from the activities of material happiness, deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown the ways of transcendental realization by your goodness through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord.
त्यक्त्वा स्वधर्मं चरणाम्बुजं हरेर् भजन् अपक्वोऽथपते ततो यदि यत्र वा भद्रम् अबुद्धमस्य किम् को वार्थ आप्तो भजतां स्वधर्मतः.
One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything.
तस्यैव हेतोः प्रयतेत कोविदो न लभ्यते यद् भ्रमताम् उपर्यदः तल्लभ्यते दुःखवद् अन्यतः सुखम् कालेन सर्वत्र गभीररम्भसा.
Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Patala. As far as happiness derived from sense of enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries even though we do not desire them.
न वै जनो जातु कथाञ्चनाव्रजेन् मुकुन्द सेव्यान्यवद् अङ्गसंसृतिम् स्मरन् मुकुन्दाङ्घ्रि उपगूहनं पुनर्विहातुम् इच्छेन्न रसग्राहो जनः.
My dear Vyasa, even though the devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, fruitive workers, etc., because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again.
इदं हि विश्वं भगवान् इवेतरो यतो जगत्स्थान निरोध संभवाः तद्धि स्वयं वेद भवांस्तथापि ते प्रादेशमात्रं भवतः प्रदर्शितम्.
The Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is himself this cosmos, and still he is aloof from it. From him only has this cosmos manifestation emanated. In him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I have given only a synopsis.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please forgive us for all our mistakes, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mamta Mataji. That was very nicely recited. I was appreciating it very much. And same Sriji Kishori Mataji, very nicely recited the English. Thank you very much. So dear devotees, welcome again to everyone to our chat session. Today we continue with the reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, and chapter is entitled Sri Narada instructs Vyasadeva. And today we'll be discussing text number 8. But before we start, we'll recite the Mangala Charanam praise like we normally do. Please feel free to join in behind muted mics. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutan Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadishatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So in yesterday's verse, we arrived at the situation where Srila Vyasadeva, he's surrendering to his spiritual master Sri Narad Muni and requesting a diagnosis for his despondency. And the verse read like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in the three worlds. And just like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive super soul. Please therefore find out the deficiency in me despite my being absorbed in transcendence under disciplinary regulations and vows. So in today's verse, Sri Narad Muni gives the direct diagnosis of Srila Vyasadeva's despondency, immediately, without hesitation. Shri Narada Vacha Bhavatanudita Prayam Yasho Bhagavato Malam Yenaivaso Natusyeta Manyeta Darshanam Kilam. Word for word translation. Sri Narada Uvacha said Bhagavata by you, Anudita Prayam, almost not praised, Yasha glories, Bhagavata of the personality of Godhead, Amalam, spotless, Yena, for which ever certainly, so he, the personality of Godhead, now does not, Tushyata, be pleased, Manya, I think, that Darshanam, philosophy, Kilam, inferior. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Narada said, you have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless. Purport. The eternal relation of an individual soul with the Supreme Soul, personality of Godhead, is constitutionally one of being the eternal servitor of the eternal Master. The Lord has expanded himself as living beings in order to accept loving service from them. And this alone can satisfy both the Lord and the living beings. Such a scholar as Vyasadeva has completed many expansions of the Vedic literatures, ending with the Vedanta philosophy, but none of them have been written directly glorifying the personality of Godhead. Dry philosophical speculations, even on the transcendental subject of the Absolute, have very little attraction without directly dealing with the glorification of the Lord. The personality of Godhead is the last word in transcendental realization. The Absolute, realized as impersonal Brahman or localized Supersoul, Paramatma, is less productive of transcendental bliss than the supreme personal realization of his glories. The compiler of the Vedanta Darshana is Vyasadeva himself, yet he is troubled, although he is the author. So what sort of transcendental bliss can be derived by the readers and listeners of Vedanta, which is not explained directly by Vyasadeva, the author? Herein arises the necessity of explaining Vedanta Sutra in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam by the self-same author. It's a beautiful purport. The last paragraph, Srila Prabhupada makes a very important point. And that is a simple point. How can you convey something satisfying, something appealing in something you've written if you yourself feel dissatisfied in what you've written? Very pertinent point that. And Prabhupada is drawing on this particular aspect of Vyasadeva feeling despondent. Generally, if you write something very satisfying, you'll feel satisfied just naturally, because you'll feel I'm giving something wonderful and great. But the fact that he's not satisfied, there is no hope, according to Srila Prabhupada, that there is readers of the Vedanta Sutra. We saw this play out very nicely in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Varanasi, and while he was in Varanasi as a young sannyasi, he was chanting and dancing. And the other sannyasis, the Mayavadi sannyasis, they were very upset by this. They were very upset. And eventually there was a meeting between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the head of the Mayavadi sannyasis. And the Mayavadi sannyasis was saying to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why are you singing and dancing like a sentimentalist? You should study Vedanta. That is the duty of a sannyasi, to follow Vedanta. But we could see, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, yes, Vedanta is very clear. But what you are following is not Vedanta. Because these sannyasis, they were dry, mental speculators. Their hearts were hard. They had no appreciation for Lord Krishna or the chanting of the holy names. So that was ample proof that Vedanta in itself was lacking. So I'd just like to speak a few words about some very important words in the verse itself and in Srila Prabhupada's purport. And one verse I would give, one word I would like to give particular focus is this word, amalam. Amalam, meaning spotless. It is a very important word, and it features in some very important instructions. There's one verse that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke, which is widely accepted to encapsulate the entire philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that verse is Aradyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kaschid Upasana Vrajavadu Varga Virya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Amalam Puranam Prema Pumartu Mahan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matam Idam Tattradharaha Na Paraha. This is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Maharaj Nanda, is to be worshipped along with his transcendental abode Vrindavan. The most pleasing form of worship for the Lord is that which is performed by the gopis of Vrindavan. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless authority on everything, and pure love of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life for all men. So the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that the supreme object of worship is the son of Maharaj Nanda, Lord Krishna, and the supermost abode or place for residence is Sri Vrindavan Dham. And what is the highest form of worship? The highest form of worship is that form of worship as demonstrated by the gopis of Vrindavan. And in terms of literature, what is that spotless literature? That is Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam, Amalam Puranam. And the goal, the pure love of Godhead, is the ultimate goal of life for all men. This is the particular opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this wonderful verse encapsulates the essence of the teachings and philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In one lecture in Vrindavan, 1976, September 10th, Srila Prabhupada spoke about this word, Amalam. Srila Prabhupada said, so Srimad Bhagavatam is Amalam Puranam. Amalam. Mala means dirty things. And Amalam means without any dirty things. What is that dirty things? The dirty things means the material modes of nature, Sattva gun, Rajagun, Tamagun. Because it is material, it is called Mala, dirty. And Srimad Bhagavatam is Amalam, without any material contamination. Because simply narration of Bhagavan and Bhagavan's devotee. Bhagavat Bhakta. Therefore it is called Bhagavatam, dealings between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. So Sri Narada is telling to Vyasadeva, he's instructing Vyasadeva, you have to explain only that which is spotless. Because if it's not spotless, it means just like you have a white shirt or a white sheet. We'll say that that sheet is spotless or that shirt is spotless. But if there's a speck of dirt, we cannot say it is spotless. So in the same way, Sri Narada is telling Vyasadeva, in your literature, if you have anything, even the slightest aspect of anything that deviates from pure devotional service, that deviates from describing the personality of Godhead, that cannot be Amalam. So you have to write that literature which is completely spotless. Not a tinge of anything that deviates from pure devotional service. That was the instruction. That was the diagnosis that Narada was giving to Srila Vyasadeva. So therefore, this Srimad Bhagavatam is Amala Puranam. In the 12th canto, 13th verse, 13th chapter, 18th verse, the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam is described. And there he said, Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana. It is most dear to the Vaishnavas because it describes the pure and supreme knowledge of the Paramahamsa. This Bhagavatam reveals the means for becoming free from all material work, together with the processes of transcendental knowledge, renunciation, and wisdom. Anyone who seriously tries to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, who properly hears it and chants it with devotion, becomes completely liberated. This is the power of the spotless literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Guru is telling to the disciple, you write something which is spotless. And therefore Srila Prabhupada said, every word in Srimad Bhagavatam is about Krishna. Every syllable in Srimad Bhagavatam is about Krishna. And this is what Srila Vyasadeva has achieved in this transcendental literature. So, spotless means free of all contamination. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 20, there's one interesting incident where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains or tells one story or a parable to his followers. And from text number 127, this description is given. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, the following parable may be given. Once a learned astrologer came to the house of a poor man and seeing his distressed condition questioned him. The astrologer asked, why are you unhappy? Your father was very wealthy, but he did not disclose his wealth to you because he died elsewhere. Just as the words of the astrologer Sarvagya gave news of the poor man's treasure, the Vedic literature advises one about Krishna consciousness when one is inquisitive to know. And this is what the astrologer said. And by the words of the astrologer, this poor man got connected with his wealth. By the words of the astrologer, the poor man's connection with the treasure was established. Similarly, the Vedic literature advises us that our real connection is with Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although being assured of his father's treasure, the poor man cannot acquire this treasure by such knowledge alone. Therefore, the astrologer had to inform him of the means by which he could actually find the treasure. And the astrologer said, the treasure is in this place. But if you dig towards the southern side, the wasps and drones will rise and you will not get your treasure. If you dig on the western side, there is a ghost who will create some disturbance that your hands will not even touch the treasure. If you dig on the northern side, there is a big black snake that will devour you if you attempt to dig up the treasure. However, if you dig up a small quantity of dirt on the eastern side, your hands will immediately touch the pot of gold. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying the story about the poor man and Sarvagya, the astrologer. And basically, the astrologer was saying, if you dig in the southern side, you will be attacked by wasps and drones. If you dig on the western side, a ghost will possess you. And if you dig on the northern side, a black snake will devour you. Now these wasps and drones, the ghost and the big snake, is considered to be fruit of activity, speculative knowledge, and mystic yoga system. That means if one follows or one introduces in one's spiritual life any tinge of karma, jnana, or yoga, one will not find the real treasure. One will have to look on the eastern side, which is bhakti. And this is the essence here of what Sri Narada is telling Srila Vyasadeva, don't write anything in Bhagavatam to deal with karma, or jnana, or yoga. You simply speak about bhakti and all your despondency will go. And this is the philosophy, and this is what our acharyas have preached. Nothing short of pure devotional service, because nothing short of pure devotional service will be able to satisfy the living entities, the jivas. I want to share with you, last night I was doing my puja and I heard this beautiful pastime of Srila Prabhupada narrated by Jagat Purush Prabhu. And it very nicely conveys the sentiment of Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas in presenting Krishna consciousness. So I'll share with you this beautiful video.
On one occasion, we were just returning from the morning walk. We were nearing the temple. Dr. Patel was walking and having animated conversations with Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada was saying something critical about one of the well-known, figures of the recent history. And Prabhupada was quite critical. And Dr. Patel, as he had done many times, really objected strongly to Srila Prabhupada's criticism. And he was asking Prabhupada, why do you have to criticize? Let them be. You do your thing, let them do their thing. Just leave them alone. Why do you have to criticize them? They are great souls in their own right. So let them just be. If you don't agree with their philosophy, just let them alone. And then Srila Prabhupada stopped. And Prabhupada said that if I'm in an operating room and I'm conducting a operation with a patient, and someone comes into the room and starts cutting my patient, am I going to just stand there and watch it happen? No, I'm going to say, get out! Prabhupada said loudly, get out, you rascal! So I cannot be silent. These rascals and fools have destroyed the culture of India. And therefore I must speak out. And I will speak out. Prabhupada is very, very strong.
I found this a beautiful pastime. And Srila Prabhupada came in that mood as a pure follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anything, absolutely anything that fell any way short of pure devotional service, that had any tinge of karma, jnana, or yoga, Srila Prabhupada would cut across it and reject it. And that's why we are so fortunate. We are so fortunate being given the opportunity to be a follower of Srila Prabhupada. As Sri Narad Muni was instructing Srila Vyasadeva on what to write in Srimad Bhagavatam, our acharyas are following in the same mood, in the same beautiful mood. Anything that stops short of pure devotional service is completely rejected. Just one or two other salient points. Srila Prabhupada talks very much about devotional service being only concerned about Krishna's pleasure. So one, Srila Prabhupada gave a very beautiful definition of what is a pure devotee. Who is a pure devotee? And he referred to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Leela, chapter 26:52. And this is the verse, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I do not mind my personal distress. I only wish for the happiness of Krishna. For his happiness is the goal of my life. However, if he feels great happiness in giving me distress, that distress is the best of my happiness. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that a devotee does not care about his own happiness and distress. He is simply interested in seeing that Krishna is happy. And for that purpose, he engages in various activities. A pure devotee has no way of sensing happiness except by seeing that Krishna is happy in every respect. If Krishna becomes happy by giving him distress, such a devotee accepts that unhappiness as the greatest of his happiness. Those who are materialistic, however, are very proud of material wealth and have no spiritual knowledge, like the Prakrita Sahajiyas, regard their own happiness as the aim of life. Some of them aspire to enjoy themselves by sharing the happiness of Krishna. They want to share. This is the mentality of fruitive workers who want to enjoy sense gratification by making a show of service to Krishna. And I absolutely loved this sentence of Srila Prabhupada in the purport. It's just so beautifully written. I was just appreciating Srila Prabhupada's writing. The Prabhupada says, the absolute realized as impersonal Brahman or localized supersoul, Paramatma, is less productive of transcendental bliss than the supreme personal realization of his glories. What a beautiful statement. So I'll stop here for today, and then we'll take any realizations, comments, or questions that anyone has. Hare Krishna. Let me see the chat box. No, nothing.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances on Guru Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. When in the translation, I read, when in the translation it said that Krishna, what was that? Sorry, can I go back to the translation? There was a sentence about no.
Yeah, let me share this.
Okay, so no, not this one. Should I not actually broadcast the sublime, spotless glories? Yeah, the philosophy that which does not satisfy the senses of the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless. So then, like an atheist, I just imagine like an atheist thinking, why will Krishna or any person want to just love somebody pleasing his senses, and he's loving people who are broadcasting his glories. So why will he do that? So like an atheist, I imagine. And Prabhupada, just in the purport, when you read the purport, can we go back to the purport, please? Thank you. Yeah, so and then the eternal relation of an individual soul with the supreme soul personality of Godhead is constitutionally one of being the eternal servitor of the eternal master. So that answered my question instantly, because I keep on asking questions in my head like an atheist. How will an atheist think of this? And then immediately the answer comes every time, either through me or through the books or something. I was so pleased that our constitution, everybody's constitutional position is to serve Krishna. That's why Krishna wants us to serve him. That's why he loves who serves his senses. He loves who glorifies him. It's not him being very proud. Oh yes, you glorify me, and so like a proud person will be very happy when people glorify him. They will be very happy, like the leaders of the world nowadays. They are very happy when people glorify them. So Krishna is not like that. It's our constitutional position is to please him, and then the loving relationship he will reciprocate, and then the bliss we will feel. So it's about us. He is thinking about us. If you do this, you will be in bliss. You will be in, you will be situated in the constitutional position. You will come back to me. You will enjoy. So he's thinking about us. It's not about him. So I was thinking like that. So that's my realization today. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That's a very profound realization. That actually is the essence You know, if we got our self-interest at heart, if we simply please Krishna, then we'll be absolutely happy and satisfied. You know, because that's our constitutional, just like a fish. You know, the fish, when it's in water, it's completely happy. Take the fish out of water, give it all facility, a Lamborghini, a house in Kensington, you know, the food from a Michelin restaurant, the fish will never be happy because the fish belongs in water. So in the same way, we belong, our position is to render service to Krishna. And when we render service to Krishna, we are completely happy and satisfied. And that's what Krishna wants. In one sense, Krishna is saying, you engage in my service, you'll be happy. Krishna does not need anyone's service. He's Atmaram. So as you've articulated a very nice realization, Rupa Mataji, and that is, you know, Krishna is thinking of our well-being. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So there's a question in the chat box here. Chat box. Chandrika Mataji. While devotional service is our prime goal, should we not also have some Gyan knowledge about the Lord Prabhu and also analyze ourselves to understand where we are in our practices? Yes, yes. Gyan and knowledge, Gyan knowledge and renunciation is required. It is required in spiritual path. But the main point being, we don't make an extraneous endeavor for either Gyan or renunciation. You know, Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita, he asked the question. He says, when we speak about transcendental knowledge, what does transcendental knowledge mean? And then Srila Prabhupada answers the question. He says, transcendental knowledge simply means spiritual understanding. So the point being, yes, you say, you know, we should analyze ourselves to see how much we are advancing in our spiritual understanding. Yes, we should be, as we advance, our spiritual understanding should also increase naturally. And if our spiritual knowledge is static, we're not feeling that we are increasing in our spiritual understanding, then that's not good. It means something is lacking in our spiritual practices. But the point being, and the essential point being, is we don't make an extraneous endeavor for spiritual knowledge. Through the process of bhakti, that knowledge comes, and reading and studying Srimad Bhagavatam is an intrinsic part of the path of bhakti. I'm not sure if I answered your question, Chandrika Mataji.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so it shouldn't be extra, what was the word? Extraneous?
Extraneous, yeah. Try to strive for it, you know, that I now need to become a bookworm. I now need to become a big Vedic scholar. No, you know, we follow the path of bhakti, we reach Srimad Bhagavatam, and all of the knowledge is revealed. Knowledge, as we know, it can never be achieved. It can only be received. And knowledge is received according to our bhakti.
And
Yes,
same
yes.
goes for the yoga process, right? So we should have the niyama, all the few basic practices of arising early, regulations. Again, not too strenuous or being too hard on ourselves.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, simply follow the instructions of the spiritual master, and none of what Srila Prabhupada has given us really should be difficult or burdensome.
Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any other questions or comments or reflections on today's verse?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I have to say, what a wonderful class, Prabhuji. And I really want to share my realization, Prabhuji. But Prabhuji, I'm going to remind you one of the questions you asked me in May when we all came to the temple. And your question to me and my friends was, what is your goal of life? And the answer to the question, me naively answered the question saying, oh, my goal of life is to go back to Vaikuntha. And now, Prabhuji, eventually I've realized that is not my goal of life. And this purport has made it so clear that my goal of life is to attain the love of Godhead. And how do I attain the love of Godhead, which is serving and loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So, I mean, what a wonderful way you explain, Prabhuji, that I've realized my goal of life, Prabhuji. So thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Hare
Namaste.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Prabhupada has made it so beautiful. Just think of Krishna's happiness. Just think about how every day in our lives, in our activities, we can do something that we know will make Krishna happy. There's no need to speculate. There's a whole science given in Nectar of Devotion, instructions so clear. Just focus on making Krishna happy, and that's the perfection. Whether we are in the Vaikuntha planets, whether we're in the heavenly planets, whether we're in Patala Loka, whether we're in Earth, as long as we are thinking and acting in a way for Krishna's happiness, we are guaranteed, we are absolutely guaranteed to be happy. Hare Krishna. Thank you. That's a wonderful realization.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else has got any comments? Thank you for your comment, Rasaleka Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvan Pranam. Krishna Prabhupada. I've just written the message, but I thought I'll share it. It reminds me of the second verse and the fourth verse of the Sri Krishna Leela Stava by Sanatana Goswami. You know, the verses that we read before we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, because they describe the love of God that Srimad Bhagavatam gives us and helps us realize that.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yes.
Thank you, Mama.
Thank you. Wonderful class. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Anyone else has any reflection to share?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can you explain Sahajiyas? You mentioned Sahajiyas.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada translates Sahaja. He says Sahaja means one who takes things very cheaply. And Prabhupada has also translated as Sahaja is a pretender. And essentially, a Sahaja, they think that devotional service or the attainment of the highest platform of devotional service is very easily attained. One does not have to follow the process of sadhana bhakti. They act from the emotional level, not from the truly spiritual level. And they take something which is very great, very cheaply, meaning, the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna, the Siddha Swarup, the eternal constitutional position of the soul, as cheaply. Like when a Sahaja takes initiation from a Sahaja Guru, the Sahaja Guru at the time of initiation will say, you are a peacock in the spiritual world. Or you are a gopi in the spiritual world. And such a Sahaja, even if they're in a man's body, they will start dressing like a gopi and acting like a gopi, or running around, and you can see this sometimes you go in Vrindavan, acting like a peacock. They take the Swarup position, the Siddha Swarup position very cheaply. That is Sahaja. One takes this highest perfectional stage very, at the time of initiation, you can realize your Swarup. Does that make sense to you, Mataji? Do you understand?
Yes, Prabhu. Like you say, they act more from the emotional level rather than devotional level.
Yeah.
The pure
There is,
devotion level.
yeah. There is not much focus on removing the anarthas.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, even with the anarthas, all of the anarthas, they want to claim a very elevated
Okay.
spiritual position. And that causes a lot of confusion. Therefore, it's called sahajya, someone who takes things very cheaply.
Okay. Pretenders. Yeah, like you said.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for explaining.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And thank you for your comment, Bhagavati Mataji. Thank you for your comment, Mamta Mataji. Hare Krishna. So I think, okay, there's one last question. Prabhuji, can you explain the difference between Advaita and Dvaita and Sankhya Yoga and Sankhya Darshan? So Advaita philosophy, put very simply, meaning the absolute is one, and that is impersonal. And we are one, same as the absolute. That's Advaita philosophy. Whereas Dvaita philosophy means two. There is the living entity, the small soul, and there's the super soul, the supreme soul. And Sankhya philosophy is, as we know it, is the Sankhya philosophy as taught by Lord Kapila in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is essentially, Sankhya means analysis. Connecting to God, Sankhya Yoga means through analytic study. So there is one type of Sankhya philosophy called neti, not this, not that. You analyze, is this absolute? Is this spiritual? No, it's not. But that type of Sankhya philosophy ultimately leads one to Advaita, the impersonal realization only. And the Sankhya philosophy as taught by Lord Kapila in the 3rd canto, that leads one to Dvaita, understanding that there's this individual soul, small, Anu, and there's a supreme soul, the absolute truth. I condensed a very broad topic in a few sentences. I hope that you got the gist of it. Okay, there's some other question here. In our Bhagavad Gita recitation, I encourage participating devotees to just open up and speak about Krishna. It is amazing how devotees do it so nicely, knowing that they are addressing Krishna on a personal level as a dear friend. Oh, really, Sriji Kishori Mataji? That's fantastic. That's wonderful.
Yes, Prabhuji. Today in our Srimad Bhagavatam meeting, one Mataji just absolutely beautifully spoke so sweetly as if she was addressing Krishna. And that is Rasaleka Mataji. I must mention her name. I hope she doesn't mind. She spoke in Hindi and she made us feel so emotional the way she was, just spoke to Krishna on a very personal level. And it was wonderful.
Yes, yes. That comes through very clearly. The devotees, you only understand what's in their heart when they speak. And the Bhava comes out when they speak. So hopefully one day all of y'all will also get a chance to speak. And if any of y'all feel you have an inclination to want to conduct one of our chat sessions, y'all are all, wonderful devotees, advanced devotees. Let us know, and you can also share what's in your heart. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for your service. Thank you for your participation. All glories to your service. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Patarubhyascha,
Kripa
Kripa Sindhu
Anantakoti Vaishnava
ki jai. Hare Krishna Prabhupada ki jai.
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu.
Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Krishna.